I'm so excited to be here and be a part of this new DVD series that we're producing. Howard and I have been working on this for literally years. It's like raising a child to work on a production like this. And I'm really excited about it because when Howard and I talk about dentists and they call him and email him, ask him a question about how to run their practice, so often we say to each other, you know, if they would just focus on some of the basic virtues in life, or traditional virtues, and Roman virtues is what Howard is going to be going back to, of just simple honesty and hard work and integrity, treating other people the way you want to be treated, a lot of their business problems would not be problems. Sometimes people try to apply really sophisticated business solutions to something that could be more easily fixed by just doing the right thing and doing your job well. And I'm really excited to introduce Howard to present this series because Howard is the most virtuous man that I know. And so here is Dr. Howard Ferran to promote the virtues of profitable dentistry.
Thank you, Judith.
You're welcome.
It's been 19 good years.
It has.
And if I'm the most virtuous man you know, you don't get out much. Thank you for buying this DVD series. We're going to have fun. We're going to go through a lot of material. Just try to sit back, relax. Don't take notes. Just try to have fun with it and try to get the big, broad concepts. Don't focus it on the nitty-gritty. This is my family. Everybody thinks Arizona is just a bunch of desert and cockroaches and scorpions. That's only half of Arizona, but we actually have mountains. There's my four boys, Eric, Greg, Ryan, and Zach, 16, 14, 12, and 10. Here's northern Arizona, skiing. Our family loves to basically ski and scuba dive, and yes, I hate to admit it, golf. We do live on a golf course, but four wonderful boys. When we got married, we were only going to have one girl named Megan, and now we have four boys, and I'm shooting blanks, so that's the extent of Megan. The virtues of profitable dentistry go back to the Roman Empire. 27 BC to 509 AD, and the Roman Empire was trying to civilize a huge portion of the world, pretty much all of Europe. And the Romans had to convince their people, just like George Bush and Australia and Britain today are trying to convince their people to give up gold coin and to give up the lives of many of their young boys to go civilize the world. So it lives more virtuous and productive and has a better life, liberty, and freedom for all their people. And to sell these virtues to the people, the Romans printed these virtues on their coin. And they described a virtue as the quality of doing what is right and avoiding what is wrong. Any admirable quality or attribute, a work of great merit, a particular moral excellence. And having lectured and done practice management in dentistry for 20 years, I would have to say to you that when dentists get tripped up and they don't know whether to take an HMO or drop a PPO or do Medicare or Medicaid, they have all these sophisticated arguments and they get so confused up into the leaves and branches of the tree, they forget the foundation trunk of medicine. So what I want you to do is, think of your foundation. If your foundation is rock solid, we're not going to end up with the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Virtues were first described and used during the Roman Empire, minted on coins, to promote the moral strength needed for the Roman Republic to conquer and civilize the world from 27 BC to 509 AD, Germania. They had a very, very large empire. Virtues define the very heart and soul of your success as a person, as a family, as a community, a country, and as a denizen. In the new millennium, 2000 AD, the lack of virtues are the greatest threat to our patients, our profession, and to our profitability. Virtue, you've always heard thoughts turn into actions, actions turn into habits, habits turn into your character, and your character is your destiny. But I just want you to add one word. Virtuous thoughts turn into positive actions. Virtuous actions turn into constructive habits. Virtuous habits determine the productivity of your character. And a virtuous character determines your financial destiny. Think how much wealth is destroyed in the United States with running a 50% divorce rate, minority children, 80% growing up in a single-family household. Keeping your health, your habits, your family virtuous creates great wealth. Judith, I'd like you to introduce all the virtues. Why don't you come out here and start with the first one?
All right. The virtue of Abbondanza, abundance. Think with abundancy, not scarcity. Healthcare must be abundant, affordable, available, and accessible for all. Really the basis of everything doctors need to think about when they're doing dentistry.
As we approach the year 2005, everybody speaks about the merits of free enterprise and capitalism, the merits of free trade, transparent governments, but you live in the United States and you read way too many of your own press clippings. Remember, there's 6,400,000,000 people alive today, and free enterprise capitalism is working real well for 1 billion, and it's not doing hardly anything for 5 billion. And you have to remember that the United States was founded on the poor. I mean, read the inscription on the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. America was founded on pretty much every reject that came out of pretty much all the way around the world. And they came here because their governments were dictators, kings, queens, tyranny, the Europe in the Dark Ages. They came here poor with the shirts on their back to breathe free. And a lot of these lessons of what built the greatest and richest country in the world have really been lost since what I consider the socialist revolution with Johnson. And these merits, these lessons that have been lost are costing not only the United States the $7 trillion it's invested in the poor from 1950 to the year 2000 with almost zero return on that investment, but it's also the lessons lost onto the remaining 5 billion earthlings who, if they don't get capitalism and free enterprise correct, they will revert back to socialism, fascism, communism, dictator, tyranny. Americans are good people. They're very fundamentally good. They're very fundamentally virtuous. They have a huge heart, and that's exactly one of the reasons why we're the richest country in the world. 2/3 of American households give to charity. A quarter give $100 or less, but you remember, the bottom poor don't have that much. A quarter give $1,000 or more. The average for all givers in America is about $700 per year. All American charity is around $120 billion a year. Now realize that the dental industry is $80 billion a year. So it's 1.5 times greater than the entire dental industry. You got a dentist for every 2,000 people, and this country gives a dental industry and a half each year to charity. 50% of charity goes to religion, and one of the reasons I went back to the virtues is because instead of getting confused in the merits of Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, going back to organized religion 2,000 years ago kind of gets underneath all of those more modern religions. So the higher percent of their income go to charity is for the poor. Isn't that amazing? If you make less than $15,000 a year, your yearly charitable donation is $1,400 or 10% of your income. If you make $15,000 to $30,000, you give $1,800 a year, which is between 6 and 12% of their income. The $30,000 to $50,000 are now moved down to 4 to 6% of their income. The $50,000 to $100,000 drop down to 2.5 to 5% of their income. And isn't it amazing that the people who make the most, dentists, $100,000 to $200,000 a year, average less than $4,000 a year to charity, which is only 2 to 4% of their income. And so I find it interesting that the poor give more money to charity than the rich, and the poor probably give more charity to the rich because they're closer to the poor. They realize the wretchedness of the poor, and they realize the necessity of giving their money. And so when the rich give less and the poor give more, it makes you wonder how disconnected are rich people from the poor. And what motivates me to keep lecturing in dentistry, especially with 4 kids and a practice, I still practice full-time at Today's Dental in Phoenix, Arizona, and I don't need to be out there lecturing. But what keeps me lecturing is because I think from 1980 to the year, when I got out of school in 87 to the year 2000, I think dentistry and most of healthcare has actually been going the wrong way. Everybody seems to be concerned about cosmetics and extreme makeovers. Physicians all want to do plastic surgery and boob jobs and tummy tucks and facelifts, and they forget that the poor people, in this country. By age 65, 1 in 3 Americans have 0 teeth. 1 in 3 have less than half their teeth. Yet all the dentists are focused on doing veneers on rich people in Scottsdale and Beverly Hills. And that's not the market. That's not dentistry. That's not even 0.5% of healthcare. There's 750,000 MDs, and if they all started doing tummy tucks and boob jobs and facelifts, who would treat the kids? Who would vaccinate the poor? Who would treat you for cancer, fix your broken leg? So I'm trying to get you focused back on to the real market in healthcare, which is the poor. Charitable giving for 2002 was $241 billion. 18 billion came from will. 26 billion came from foundations. 12 billion were for corporations. But the lion's share, 183 billion, which was 76%, came from individuals. I think it really helps dentists to every once in a while get centered. And you can't find your center very easily living in the richest country in the world. You start thinking that everybody has an SUV, that every man that's 40 has a Harley. You start justifying all these things. Dentists will call me up, and they'll be stressed out of their mind about some finance thing, or they absolutely forget how everyone lived 2,000 years ago, and how basically 5 billion of the 6 billion earthlings live like we pretty much lived several hundred years ago. The guy who turned me on to doing charity dentistry in the third world initially was my very good friend Jerome Smith, a renowned implantologist in Lafayette, Louisiana. And he took me down to Mexico and Chiapas with 5,000 Indians that had basically no electricity, running water, or sewage. And when I was flying down there, I was still working on the plane. I had all these notes and papers, and I was doing all these things. And then when I got off the plane and we drove a couple hours up to this mountain, and then we had to hike the remaining last hour into this village. When I got to this village and I saw how other people live, it was just like lightning knocking me off my horse. I mean, it was just like unbelievable. And there's Jerome and I, and we're health food fanatics, so we had our Cuban cigars, which you can only buy in Mexico, and yes, we were drinking more than carbonated beverages. But it was amazing how we set up shop, and I think we pulled maybe 3,000-4,000 teeth in 4 days with a dozen of us dentists from, most of them were from Louisiana. And it was just unbelievable, and especially you had to switch dental hat to medical hat, because like a little kid would come in and he'd have a toothache, but you'd see his foot swollen the size of a football, and a piece of barbed wire sticking out of his foot, and him being real protective of it. And you'd have to put him on the table and pull out this piece of barbed wire and the pus and the blood and the serous fluid, and used our Nike tennis shoe as a bandage. Took that and poured a bottle of Paradex in it, and that was the dressing for his wound. And it was so refreshing to see this boy limp into town, and when you left 4 days later, he was running around and playing. I mean, and you wonder how many years was there a piece of barbed wire stuck in his foot. It was very, very sad to see the disease. People often forget that the #1 cause of death around the world in the year 2005 is still diarrhea. It is amazing to watch them drink dirty water with, I took a sample of water back with me and took it down to the health department and had it analyzed, and it was running 44 parts per million fecal matter. And it was just amazing how these kids, if they just had some clean water, some soap, basic health care, to be alive, and yet probably one of them died pretty much every other day for just sanitation reasons. It was just amazing. There's no bald people among Chiapan Indians, so every time I sat down, they all have to come up and feel my head. And what was interesting about it is the sound they'd make, because they'd feel my head and they'd go, ooh. And I wish I learned how to speak Chiapan Indian so I could tell them all I was a god, but I couldn't. But beautiful people. What was also amazing is how they were all so happy. I mean, it was just, they didn't have really many problems, because I don't think they were aware of them. To see these little girls walk around with babies strapped to their back, and if you could see the wrap this baby was in, that worked as its diaper and you name it, and you could smell these people coming at you from 25 feet away. It was just unbelievable. In fact, I told Jerome when we went down there, if I would have been single with no wife, no kids, I don't think I could have thought of one selfish reason even to come back. I mean, they need you so desperately. And here's my 4 children at the time of the first time I went down there with Jerome, and to leave this little 12-year-old girl with a 3-year-old baby on her shoulders and come back to my 4 babies and go to Disneyland. What an unbelievable flight to go from 5,000 Indians, no running water and electricity, back to our $500,000 home and our 4 spoiled, rotten kids and the life of luxury. And then I started looking at my notes of all the things I was working on, and it was almost reminding me of when St. Thomas Aquinas had his final epiphany. He never wrote again. He said everything he was writing didn't even matter. It was so insignificant to what he finally realized. And so get centered. Don't tell me you're going to be a dentist in the richest country in the world and never do one charitable dentistry event to the third world. I mean, it's just, you're harming yourself by not doing it. You get so caught up in America. Go to dentaltown.com. We have 87 different board categories. One of them is missionary charitable dentistry. And yes, there's lots of charitable dentistry you can do in the United States. But remember, the United States poor, I'm telling you, if the bottom 1 billion earthlings could live like the U.S. poor, every one of them would have thought they won the lottery. So it's hard to get centered treating U.S. poor, because the U.S. poor, relative to the 6.4 billion, the U.S. poor, they don't even know what poor is. They couldn't spell it. You know something's wrong with U.S. poor when 1/3 of them are obese. If you really saw the poor, you'd notice that obesity is not really a problem among the real poor. But you owe it to yourself. Go do it. Call Jerome Smith. He's got several places in Mexico, and he's got one north of Acapulco, so you can actually go into Acapulco, stay in a 5-star resort, and then each morning just drive an hour up into, I think he calls it Adiac, and unbelievable what Jerome Smith is doing. One of my favorite economics books, when people ask me what I do, I never know if I tell them I'm a dentist or an economist, because it's kind of like that alter ego side of me. I mean, I only read 2 subjects: dentistry, history, economics. But economics, history is really the same. In fact, one of the greatest economists of all time, Ludwig von Mises, in his book, he titled economics, it wasn't even called economics back then, there wasn't even a term for it. He called it human action. And that's really what it is. It's human action. Think of economics as, forget all the math. When people try to explain economics with cosines and derivatives and intervals and tangents, and I mean, the only reason those instructors bring out math is because that's the only thing that they know that you don't know. So they bring up all these useless mathematical equations, and if you really want to do an economics book correctly, you shouldn't even have math. I mean, the first one was like reading a philosophy book, and he called it human action. What I like to tell people is, think of Gilligan's Island. And I know I'm dating myself at age 43, because I've had some dentists come up to me at age 23 and say, "What's Gilligan's Island?" And I think, oh my God, you know you're old when there's actually people who have never seen The Skipper and Mary Ann. And, but the bottom line is, you're on Gilligan's Island, and you decide to start building huts. Say there's, what was Gilligan's Island, like 7 people stranded on a desert on an island in the middle of nowhere. And if the skipper and Mary Ann and Gilligan and the professor and Thurston Howell III and his wife, if all of them decided to start building huts, well, now housing is exploding. And then after all their huts are built and they decide to all go fishing, now housing plummets and the fishing industry takes off. And then when they get sick and tired of eating fish all day long, they want to go eat some coconuts, now they leave the fishing industry and it plummets, and now the coconut industry takes off. And just because an industry is falling doesn't mean it's bad. Let's go to the most basic thought of capitalism. Let's say that you're a good guy, you got a big heart, and you decide that you want everybody to have twice as much money. Well, what is money? I mean, money is a piece of paper representing a human action, labor. Anything you buy with paper dollars or euros or yen was paid for with human labor. And that piece of paper, like a $100 bill in America, basically $400 is what the average manufacturer in China earns in a year. So if you bought something for a $100 bill, that $100 bill represents a Chinese person working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week for 3 months, a quarter of a year. You buy something for $400. Some Chinese person had to work an entire year. So all money is paid for in human labor, and the first economist called it human action. And in his book, he explains virtues fantastic, where he says the foremost social means of making man more human is to fight poverty. Wisdom, science, and the arts thrive better in a world of affluence than among needy people. So even Ludwig tied virtuous thoughts to economics and just simply called human economics human action. Society is a concerted action of cooperation. It is the outcome of conscious and purposeful behavior. It is a division of labor, and combination of labor is antecedent to the individual. So many times when I hear other lecturers speak in dentistry, it really makes me very troubled when they talk about that, well, you just charge what the market should bear. Well, no, that's not true. You don't make an Intel chip. You don't make a taco at Taco Bell. You're not in clothing. Your wife doesn't need her 10th pair of shoes. You don't need new golf clubs. But healthcare, education, and even military protection, externally military and internally police, these are vital functions. In fact, military and police are not tied over to free enterprise and capitalism, where the police are charging what the market can bear. That would be absurdity. Can you imagine having a military like the United States of 1.5 million people, and they're all free enterprise agents, mercenaries going to the highest bidder, trying to get the maximum return on their capital? And notice that healthcare among the 211 countries, the 40 richest countries, have reined in healthcare as a government function. They don't even turn over to free enterprise. And America has gone the same route, where Social Security over 65, Medicare is for everyone over 65 at a federal level, and so that's the elderly, and then the poor in each state are taken care of by Medicaid. So even your country has only allowed free enterprise and health care just for the working class. The feds take care of the elderly with Medicare, and the states take care of the poor individually with Medicaid. And so when society is a concerted action, don't tell me that healthcare is free enterprise, you charge what the market will bear. Don't tell me the same economic lessons that apply to Nike tennis shoes and Southwest Airlines, because you're in healthcare. And anybody can set up a dry cleaner shop in your state. Anybody can open up a restaurant. But to be a healthcare provider, to be a dentist, to be a physician, you have to be licensed by the state. You have to have graduated from a U.S. dental school or med school. The state board gives you your license. It is a highly regulated component. Dentists are always telling me how much student aid that they graduated with. They'll say, well, you know, I graduated $100,000 of student loans. I deserve to make $1 million a year. Well, you know, your tuition at dental school picked up 20% of the cost. 80% of your dental school was paid for by the tax dollars of the waitress at the Waffle House who's working to feed 2 kids because her deadbeat husband left town. Abraham Maslow, which is, when you think of theoretical physics, you think of Albert Einstein. When you think of quantum physics, you think of Niels Bohr. When you think of human behavior, it's Abraham Maslow. I mean, he was the granddaddy Einstein of human behavior. And Abraham Maslow says, many people want a cause which is greater than themselves. So go for it with no less than every single person that you have contact with. You ask people what's the meaning of life, they say, oh, to leave the playground better than I found it before. They say, well, it's to be a part of something greater than yourself. Okay, I hear all that, but, you know, Abraham Maslow is saying, again, I see all your theory, but let's apply it to each and every single person that you come in contact with. You know, when you're walking down the street, how are you doing? They say, fine, they walk on by. And, you know, is he one of the 30,000 people that will go on this year and just go kill themselves? I mean, when he said, I'm just fine, did he tell you, oh, I'm fine, I'm going to go kill myself? When you say things like that, be serious and do it. You know, make someone's day every single day. And being a dentist, let's do it in your dental office. The single most important source of funds for new business in the USA is a mortgage on their home. And we have to realize this, that one of the reasons these poor people are so poor in your country, and the reason they're so poor everywhere else in the middle and the rest of the world, is that we don't understand capitalism in America. You know, the Congress doesn't understand it. The Democrats, they couldn't even fathomly understand it, because go back to the economic lessons that started this country. People would come here, and your country told them that if you set up a house and it was 20 by 20, and you raised a crop, and you lived on it for 2 to 3 years, depending on the colony or the state, that was your land. And usually they would mark the land with an axe, and they'd go around to the corners of their property, and they'd put a chip mark in a tree. And then later, that's why barbed wire fences took off, not to keep cattle from roaming around, but to mark off their property. But see, when you own that property, property foreshadows paper currency. You can't have money without property, and people don't understand that subtle differences. Look at the poor. From Johnson's Greater Society program that started by Kennedy and then Johnson, and they've spent $7 trillion from 1950 to the year 2000 on the bottom 13% economically in the poor. And what do they have to show for it? Nearly nothing. Why? Because when they put them in the projects, they didn't give them this house and say, here's a title agency, and we're giving you this house, and it's like your condominium, and this is yours, and you own it. And now you can go to the bank and you can pledge that as a capital for a loan to improve it. So you can go to Home Depot, or maybe you want to take a loan against that because your daughter wants to go to college. No, the Democrats, they're mostly interested in having this poor live paycheck to paycheck from them, so they know that they would go vote for more benefits. So you've got 50, you didn't teach them how to fish with capitalism. You just give them a fish every month, and they keep coming back to you still poor, wanting more fish. Whereas the rich people in America got rich because they actually got land. And that land was a source of their capitalism. So you can't sit there and blame them for not, taking $7 trillion of aid and getting into the middle class. The United States has done many things to get capital into the hands of the capitalists. Look at your new home mortgage. I mean, where else can you get a loan for a house with 3% down, 30 years fixed? I mean, this is something free enterprise could never deliver. They couldn't even calculate the risk 30 years from now. How do you calculate the risk on that? But the government said, we know we need to get capital to the people. And they get capital to the middle class. In the middle class, they get student loans. But the poor are poor, especially around the world. Look at Russia. When Russia, 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and they sat there, and the people, all those farms, they didn't send in title agencies, divvy up the farm, say now the farm's yours to buy and sell and trade and leverage through banks and finance and set up strong financial institutions of capitalism. The government said, well, we own the land, and we're doing you a favor. We'll let you work on it and give us 20% anything you grow. That's not capitalism. That's how you sustain poverty. Property effects, fixing the economic potential of assets. You have to define an asset with a title agency. When you sell it, you have to have a system where somebody comes to you and says, okay, I want to buy this piece of land. Is there really a title that he knows for sure you really have title to this land? These poor countries don't have title agencies. So people walk around and they make up fake titles and they sell things, and people find out they've been living for 5 years on a plot of land and 7 different people claim they have titles to it. And this is why they're still poor. All the money in the world from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, when you don't have surveyors, when you don't have title, when you don't have property, they don't have an integrated dispersed information into one system. So when you go to India and this guy says, my name is Riyadh, how do you know that? Where's his driver's license? Where's his social security number? A lot of Americans say, I don't want a social security. I don't want big government knowing what I do. Well, you're an idiot, because what would happen if you had 300 million people in the country and you couldn't prove that anybody was anyone? You couldn't prove that he had title to this car. You wouldn't know if it was stolen property. You wouldn't know if you're going to buy this house. When you put up House Hunt for America, you got to go in and sign all these paperwork. And everybody always rolls around and says, oh, that's so dumb. Why do I have to sign 30 forms? Well, you got to sign 30 forms because somebody has to guarantee that the person selling it really has title. You got to have insurance on that in case this guy's wrong, in case they're wrong 1 out of 100 times. It makes people accountable. Was it bad in school when they gave you a grade? What did you say? Well, I don't want the teacher knowing what my grades are or my social. I don't want anybody knowing anything about me. Then how can you have a society of worker ants if no one wants anybody to know anything else about them? You have to make assets fungible to suit practically any transaction. Like you buy a house, but it's the title to that house. That's the fungible asset that can go and be traded. It can be held at a bank. You can put in a safety deposit box. That asset is represented by a title. Same thing with your car. It networks people into individually identifiable and accountable agents, protecting transactions with titles, deeds, securities, and contracts. This is the fundamental of capitalism. So when you tell me, well, you don't care about the poor because they're idiots, they make bad decisions, they make dumb decisions, your government made dumb decisions. Your government from 1776 to 1950, they made awesome decisions. Jefferson. Why is Jefferson's head on the Washington, on the, what is that called? Mount Rushmore. Why do we have, well, we have Washington's head up there because he was the founding country, and when he won the war against the British, at least a third of the founding fathers wanted to make him king, and he said, no, this isn't about me, this is about the people. So that one, I mean, where else have we seen in human history where, you know, at the same time, you have to remember, Napoleon Bonaparte was pillaging and raping the lands of most of Europe until they ran him off to Cyprus. And here, at the same time as Napoleon Bonaparte and King Henry III, here's George Washington says, no, I'm not a king. This is about the people, not about me. We had Lincoln, who said, we are going to settle our differences. We're not going to divide up the country every time we disagree and turn into a land of 100 different countries all not getting along. We are going to do it with law, and the rule of law is going to prevail. And if you're going to secede for the nation, we're going to send 380,000 boys to their grave to preserve the Union. We had Roosevelt up there, another great one. But why was Jefferson up there? Jefferson saw capitalism. He was all behind the Louisiana Purchase, the Florida Purchase. He was expanding land, and he was writing laws that when you get on that land, if you homestead it, if you carve off a mile section, 640 acres, and you put a house up and raise a crop, it's yours. And then when they set that up, they also realized that now you can go tax that. And I mean, it was just unbelievable genius. A lot of historians also point out that they didn't want all those people in Louisiana Purchase being motivated by the French to later build a military against them. But that's true. That was a backdoor threat. But the front door threat was expanding American capitalism with fungible assets, property titles, deeds, security contracts. The fundamentals of free enterprise was owning a piece of the land. And I say this knowing that probably, what, 80% of dentists rent? I mean, your forefathers came here with the shirt off their back. You think of all the people that drowned in the ocean swimming here from Cuba. Do you know that 1 in 8 died coming here from Ireland during the big Irish wave of immigrants, where the Irish were the biggest wave of immigrants this country ever had until just last year? The Irish were 13% of the population at the time, and now the Hispanics just passed that. But I'm telling you that they ran a 1 in 8 death just getting here with the shirt off their back, and all they wanted was property. And now you're their descendants 200 years later, and you're a landless squatter peasant renting in a professional building that your customers couldn't find unless they had an Apache helicopter with heat-seeking radar to find a body moving in it. Einstein talks about relativity. This is relativity. I mean, imagine being the person on the right versus the person on the left. Imagine the person, do you really think this person would get a good job in sales? Do you really think they could get a job anywhere where they have to meet the customer? Imagine how much easier life is for a person who looks like this. And, you know, if you lowered the price, how many more people would have this? So don't tell me this is something that people deserve if they have the market price that bears. Remember, this is a human condition. This picture is taken 50 miles north of Hong Kong, and here's a beautiful little Chinese Asian girl with a mask, no gloves, with an old jackrabbit drill, and here's a man sitting in a chair. Let's go next door to India. I mean, this is your teeth, denture teeth in India. I mean, imagine this. And it's the lessons on why 5 billion earthlings have to live like this. This is the extreme example to help you learn the subtle examples of what's wrong in the richest country in the world. One of the neatest things I ever read by Barbara Coloroso was she studied every major religion and tried to see what did they have in common. Did they have a common character, a place, a city? And after reading through all the major religions, she found there was only one sentence that was common in every major religion, and it was so clear. It was like plagiarism. And what do we call that? The golden rule. And the golden rule is not who has all the gold rules. The golden rule is treat other people like you want to be treated. It started with Judaism 2,000 years BC, which was, 4,000 years ago. What is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. That is the entire law. All the rest is commentary. And then here's Buddhism, 1500 BC, 3,500 years ago, saying this is the sum of all true righteousness. Deal with others as thou wouldst like to be dealt with, in the Mahabharata. Then Buddhism, 500 AD, hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. And then Confucius, surely it is a maxim of loving kindness, do not unto others that you would not have them do to you. Christianity is a very newcomer. This was 2,000 years ago, when it says in Luke, do unto others as you would have done unto you. And then Islam at 600 AD, no one of you is a believer until he desires for his brother that which he desires for himself. So that's virtues. So think about that before we go on to all these lessons. Thank you. Hey boys, it's getting time to go. You guys ready for a good day at school? Yep. You all ready for your exams? So what are you guys doing tonight? Homework? So we got to be anywhere after school, or? No. Pretty much study? No plans, really?
No plans.
Wow, just an easy day? Well, remember guys, I'm going to my job, and school is your job, so, take school, that's your job. Society basically has given you a free pass. I mean, when you go to school, you haven't made a road, a bridge, a building, you never invented a light bulb, you've never done anything your first 20 years. So society's taken a lot of their money, built some really great schools, and your job for the first 20, 25 years of your life is to go to school and get a great education so that when you're a worker from 25 to 65, you can invent a better lasting light bulb, a better root canal, a better skateboard, but from 25 to 65, you're going to make or sell something, okay? But right now, your job is to go build your brain, okay? So let's make it a productive day. Go there and try to learn something.
All right.
And Mom, what are you going to do today?
Take care of everybody else.
Take care of everybody else.
Yep. Get everybody to
See, if you only could have been a girl, you wouldn't even have to go to work. But guys, have a good day, all right? Love you guys. Love you, Mom.
Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, another day, another dollar. I think it's so... I used to open up my office at 7 in the morning, and I did it for years, and then I realized that we're kind of a product of what we are. When I was little, when I woke up, my dad was already at work. When I went to bed, he was still at work. That's all I knew. I idolized my dad. I thought he was awesome. But I realized after years, my wife made me realize that waking up and having breakfast with the kids it's special. So in business, there's lots of trade-offs. I could open up at 7 o'clock and I could be more successful. And I probably will, maybe, when my kids are gone. But who knows, then a lot of the staff might have babies still. But in business, everything's a trade-off. So when we go through this DVD series, I don't want you to think that I'm Dr. Fran, I'm telling you that business is, here's the one way to do it. There's only one way to make a Big Mac, 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, cheese, lettuce, onion on a sesame bun. I'm going to tell you there's 100 ways to make a hamburger. And don't let anybody tell you there's only one way to do it. So many of these consultants try to pigeonhole everybody into one hole. And it just doesn't make sense. It reminds me of the old saying, United States of America. That doesn't make any sense. How do you compare Texas to Alaska, San Francisco to Wichita, Kansas, Miami to Atlanta, New York City to, Green Bay? I mean, the United States is about 10 countries all intertwined, and I've been in several hundred offices, and I've seen the math on several hundred dental offices, and there's 100 good ways to skin a cat. So as you go through this DVD series, remember that everything in life is a trade-off. It's not this is right and this is wrong. It's, well, I could open up at 7 o'clock, and I know that is the most popular appointment of the day, and I did it for 18 years. But when my sweetie Judith, who you might know as Flawless, said, the kids are getting older and you're not having breakfast with them in the morning, and I wish you would have breakfast with them, that's what we did. So it's a trade-off. And the thing I like most about seeing the kids in the morning is the same thing about seeing the staff in the morning, is that I can't tell you, humans only live about 30,000 days on average. And if you're going to go have a staff member, if you're lucky, the average staff member is not even going to stay with the average dentist for 1,000 days. So first impressions are set in lead. And so give your kids a great first impression in the way to school. Make them remember that they're doing something serious. They're on a mission. They're going to school to learn how to build a better lasting light bulb. When you walk into your office, your first impression is everything. There might be patients in the waiting room, so why are you crawling in the back door? My God, you got customers in the waiting room. Be the gregarious chef who goes out and shakes hands with people and asking them how they like the lasagna and etc. And I'll keep saying over and over that business, I can run any business on one hand. I mean, basically you have a vision. What are you going to do? Are you going to be a hamburger shop? Are you going to serve filet mignon? It doesn't matter your price point. It doesn't matter your market segmentation. It doesn't matter if you're making Mercedes-Benz or used cars. You have a respectable market, respectable people who own Mercedes-Benz at one time in their life. I'm sure their first car was a used car. In fact, I think my first car was a used car, and nothing wrong with that. There's a heck of a lot more poor people in America than rich people, so if you think that you're going to go back and do extreme makeovers in Parsons, Kansas, you're basically insane and you need help. And so there's just as much money to be made in McDonald's as there is in an A1 steakhouse. Interesting thing, speaking of McDonald's, I don't know if you've ever heard of a chain of restaurants called the In-N-Out Burger, but the In-N-Out Burger, pretty amazing that in the year 2004, here's this little In-N-Out Burger that doesn't even have 1,000 locations. They're mostly in California. They have them out here in Arizona. Actually made more net income than the glorious McDonald's with 35,000 locations. So remember that, bigger isn't always better. We read in the paper the other day about a dentist who decided he's going to be a dentist at a truck stop. No employees, just him. Basically nothing but net. 100 ways to skin a cat. But basically, business starts with you're going to have a vision. What is it you want to do? And what I really wish you would do is do what you feel passionate about, and also try to remember what you said to us poor seniors who are listening to your lying little butts when you were an undergrad and you're coming in there for your dental interview, and we said, why do you want to be a dentist? And you said you want to help people, and you want to help the poor, and you want to help people get out of pain. And then it seems like by the time you're 40, you say, okay, I only want one patient a day. I want to do $30,000 cosmetic rehabs on supermodels from Beverly Hills. If you lost your vision, try to get back to your roots and find it. And I also wish you get back to your roots and think about your vision at a family reunion. How many people in your family reunion need a extreme makeover? And of those, how many are completely insane? So, go back to your roots. If every physician only did boob jobs, who would you go to when you had prostate cancer or ammonia or meningitis? So, remember, you're a doctor. You're a doctor first. Most of you went to dental schools that were pretty much 80% financed by general taxation or state taxation. So you have your vision. And then you got to find people to carry out your vision. And then, of course, you make something, you sell something, and you watch the numbers. That's pretty much business. So as we're going into work, you have a team up there. And so many dentists just blow the day. They'll walk up front and they'll see as a cancellation at 8 o'clock that was on the message machine. And, of course, your receptionist got there 30 minutes early and has already listened to the messages and found this and wrote a big canceled or no-show or whatever on the name. And, of course, you walk in at 3 minutes till 8 and say, so was she even confirmed? Did anyone even confirm her? Or, what's this? And that's the type of rudeness that just ruins the whole day. and it can ruin the whole day. So these are your staff, and you're paying them big money. Whenever you look at business, the typical dental office is just like the S&P 500. The S&P 500 averages about 53-54% for payroll. And that's what dental offices average. A lot of dentists say, oh, that's crazy, I only pay 20-25%. Well, you got to remember you pay yourself. You can't say you have 60% overhead and you get the other 40%, because then basically what you're saying is you have 100% overhead. So if I pay my associates 25% of production, which is what I pay them, I have to pay myself 25% of production. So when I pay my staff 27.5% and I get 25%, we run about 53% payroll. So then when I say we net 13% profit, that's 13% profit dollars from having capital employed in a dental office. So when you're figuring that 53% of the S&P 500, 53% of my office goes for payroll, that's your number one expense. After that, lab and supplies in the industry runs 14 to 16%. And so payroll is everything. So if I'm half the payroll, if I'm 25% of that 53%, the first thing I need to take about myself is I need to take care of myself. If I go in there with a good night's sleep, any sleep under 6 hours is pathological. People who sleep over 8 hours a night live on average about 3.5 years longer than people that sleep less than 6 hours a night. You got to get up, you got to have breakfast. Basically, it's weights aerobic diet. Even though I don't have a Calvin Klein body, I at least make a fairly darn good attempt on it. But my wife and I and our 2 children that are over 14, we're members of the Gold's Gym across from my office. We go there 3 times a week, sometimes 4. And then there's a little hike around, we live behind a mountain, it's called South Mountain. There's a little path called Telegraph Pass, about a 3-mile up and down hike that goes up about 1,000 feet. And we do that 3 to 4 times a week. So, your weights, aerobic diet, and, we usually get up, Sweetie and I eat cold oatmeal over some fruit and some milk, and then 10 o'clock have a protein shake, 11 o'clock or noon have a piece of chicken or shrimp or something, and some more vegetables. But what I'm trying to make a point is that you didn't buy a ticket for diet and exercise, but take care of yourself. You have to be healthy. You're 1/4 of you're half the payroll. And then when you go into your staff, man, first impressions of the day are everything. And you wouldn't go to the Super Bowl and expect that there would be no team huddle. Well, if you treat every day like the Super Bowl, and basically you should treat every day like Super Bowl. We get there 30 minutes early. Basically at 30 minutes till, we're going to have a staff meeting. And in our office, unlike the school that my children go to, I always think it's insane that at public schools, no teacher has a classroom, and all the students in high school and all the teachers in high school change classes every hour. I think that's just patently absurd, and there's no computers in the place. But back to Free Enterprise, my office, each staff member has their own computer terminal and their own email account. And basically our business model is 1 dentist for 2 assistants in 2 rooms and 2 hygienists in 2 rooms. And I always have an associate, so I have another dentist with his 2 assistants in 2 rooms and his 2 hygienists 2 rooms. So I basically have 8 rooms, and then the 9th room is simply for emergencies. And so in our office, rooms 1, 2, 3, and 4 are 4 hygienists, and they would be Janet, Christine, Corey, Kim, and then Dr. Dominic would be in rooms 5 and 6 with Colleen and Amy, and I'm in rooms 7 and 8 with Jan and Chris Galores. And so basically, so I got 4 receptionists, 4 assistants, 4 hygienists. That's 12 bodies. And basically, we're all going to meet, and everybody from their room will have a little slip of paper filled out. And I'm kind of laughing when I say that, because I always say we're paperless, and every time I say we're paperless, I always find more paper. Like when we went paperless, then we had x-rays and a chart, so we had to go digital x-ray. Then we had routing slips on the routing slips, we had to get rid of that. Then everything the patient signed, we had to have a piece of paper. Then we got digital signing, and here I just said, that each staff member is going to show up with a slip of each patient they have each hour for a hygiene cleaning or however long they are. And I'm sure someday, sooner rather than later, that'll be on a PDA. But right now, we still have paper in our paperless office. And we're going to go over as a team and what's going to happen at each hour. And that's usually, you know, some people have social needs. You know, as they're gathering around, lots of the people have to say, like, what did you do last night? Or did you go to your son's volleyball game? Did they win? So, you know, getting there 30 minutes early and, you know, get some social interaction out of the way. What's up? What'd you do last night? Did you work out? Did you go out for dinner? How was the ball game? All that kind of stuff. Get the socialing out of the way. Be positive. Be upbeat. You know, if you know, try to notice if one of the staff has what I call big hair day or new hair day, or be complimentary. You know, get these people fired up. And remember, you know, these say the customer comes first. That is so completely backward. Your staff comes first, and you treat them good. And if you can get the best staff, then everything else takes care of itself. Like, let's say that you're not good at making something. Well, a great staff will point that out to you and get you to the right courses. Let's say you can't sell something. Well, a great staff will help you sell. Let's say your vision's wrong, your strategy's wrong. Let's say you're trying to do extreme makeovers in Latha, Kansas. A good staff can help you remember that 20% of your patients or more can't afford anything like that. But it's basically, I'll say it 1,000 times, if you have great staff, everything takes care of itself. And if you go in there, you're a leader, and you might not see yourself as a leader, you might see yourself as shy or introvert, but you're a leader. And you own this business, it has your name on it. And so be a leader, take care of yourself, start the day early, get in there good, make some first impressions, fire them up, and just like the Super Bowl, have a game plan. And you're going to go in there this morning and you're going to go over the game plan. And then everybody will hook themselves up on Motorola walkie-talkies in the ear. So we start with a great team huddle and laughing and giggling and having fun, and then we'll go greet our patients and have fun, and we'll have fun all day on the Motorola, and the day will just go by like that, and I love it. So let's go in and have a great day.
Good morning, Dr. Free.
Good morning, Kim. How are you doing?
Good. How are you this morning?
Very good. I just want to tell you what an honor it is to have people like you behind the front desk.
Thank you.
So what does your day look like?
It's a very busy day. We have all ops scheduled today, so
Completely filled up?
smoking, yep.
And why are we completely filled up?
Because we have
People like you.
Yeah, that's true.
People like you. And who's this over here?
That is Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris. How are you doing?
Pretty good, and you?
So what's your day look like?
You know, pretty busy. Just making sure all the insurances are current, and I get everyone confirmed for the next 2 days.
So what do you say to people, dentists who say, I don't want to take insurance? Do you think insurance is important?
I do.
You think the patients like it?
I think so.
A little or a lot?
A lot.
I think they do too. I mean, who wouldn't want to have someone pay half their bill?
That's right.
Well, did anybody else show up? Oh my gosh, Chris. Jan, come here. This is Chris. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
This is my junior assistant of 3 years.
3 years.
3 years? You
Yeah.
gotta be at least 10 to be the senior.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel 10.
You what?
I feel 10.
You feel 10? You feel like you've been here 10? Chris is outstanding. And here's my my wife at work. 17 years of marriage here.
Yes.
So, Jan, how are you doing?
Great.
Did you have a good night?
I did.
And why was it a good night?
Well, I always have a good night. Always have a good night.
And what's the day look like today?
Oh, we're going to be busy. We're going to be cranking today, but it's a great place to work.
And what's
I
the
work.
chance you might miss your lunch?
High chance, but that's okay. That's okay. I work for a great man, so can't get any better than
Well,
this.
thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
But, and this is
Good morning.
this is my number 2. This is my right-hand man. It's pretty cool your right-hand man's an Amazon blonde, isn't it? But how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
And what's
Ready
the day
to
look
start
like?
the day. It's awesome. I've got several meetings set up, and but patients were full.
And tell them what you know. We always say in business you can run it in one hand. I mean, there's a vision, find the people, make something, sell something, watch the numbers, and I still credit this whole success on you finding the people. I mean, it's all HR, isn't it?
It is absolutely all HR. Yeah.
And You could write a book on finding people.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
And here's the number one in charge of today's dental, Sandy.
Hi.
And don't be fooled by this little innocent blonde. She's a Harley Davidson bike rider.
That's right.
She's
That's
a
right.
office manager by day and a Harley Davidson wild woman by night.
It's a great combination, don't you think?
Great combination. So how's your day look?
My day looks great today.
Great.
We are busy. We're rocking and rolling. It's good.
And one last thing, I'll just keep re-emphasizing throughout the whole theme. It's all finding the people,
Right.
managing the people. Tell us something about people.
We have an awesome team. Everyone works together. They all get along, and that's what it's all about. Having the team. Absolutely.
And do you think that's from picking them or managing them or
I think
both?
it's both.
It's both.
I think you pick the right people, you train them, you treat them well, and it works.
So sooner or later you'll start treating me well?
Work on you.
You'll work on me, yeah. I haven't got to
You're a
the
work in
treated well
progress.
part yet, but I'm glad to hear it's coming. And good morning, Janet. When you come over here to your doorway, to your prison cell. And this is my favorite girl from Iowa.
Yeah.
I'm from Kansas, she's from Iowa, so we could be brothers and sisters and not even know it.
Yeah, we
But
probably are.
How's your day look?
Good. Have some scaling and cleaning, just some regular cleanings. No big deal.
No big deal? Just another day at the office?
Just another day at the office, yeah.
Okay. And here's my pride and jewel. The best looking hygienist in all of America. Can you find one cuter than that? So how's it feel to be the best looking hygienist in America?
Awesome.
Does it?
It does.
And tell us about your foot. You kicked the patient who didn't floss.
Of course, you know, you got to whip them into shape somehow.
You kicked them hard. So what's your day look like?
It looks awesome. You say a couple cleanings, a couple FMXs, and looks great.
And what makes a day awesome and what makes it not awesome?
Your attitude.
Your attitude. And whenever I look into her blue eyes, my attitude is completely fixed for the whole day. And Corey, the Pearl. Kim goes to Pearl. This is the spunkiest, energetic, most awesome hygienist.
Well, thank you.
You are.
Yes.
You've it's kind of interesting. We're always talking about business on one hand. It's you have a vision, you find the people, you make something, sell something, watch the numbers. And what's neat about you is you've added to the Perio program. You're always adding more value. I mean, you create wealth in today's dental. You're always building something. And what do you think that is?
I think it's just, that you have passion for something. I love doing what I do. I love being a hygienist, and I want to, make what we do here worth it to you.
Yes. And to yourself.
Yes.
And this is, once again, this is something you can't create. This is something you can't mold. This is something you have to pick. This is, Corey's an HR success. I mean, Lori and Sandy, you find diamonds in the rough, and you can't create them. I mean, I can't take a piece of coal and turn it into a diamond, but I can find a Corey. And I always want to thank you for everything you've done for our office, because it's profound. So, Kim, come to the door. And I just want to say that we even hire Hoosiers. This girl's from Indiana, and we thought, were you under a bridge when we found you?
Close.
Close?
Close, yeah.
But she came from
They
Indiana.
saved me.
And our office could turn a Hoosier into a productive hygienist. So
We're the best.
What's your day look like?
Busy.
Busy?
Very busy. Yep.
Is that good, bad?
That's good.
And why is it good?
Makes time fly.
Does that make something?
Yeah.
So
It's boring.
you prefer busy?
Yep.
Good. Hard working Indiana girl.
That's right.
Tom Petty song.
That's why I'm here.
So who's back here? This is Colleen. Colleen, you got to come to the door. This girl,
Hi.
just random accident, has the same name as my mother, Colleen. And before Colleen, I hired her. I called my mom about once every 2 to 3 weeks and got this guilt trip about having her called. And now that I hear Colleen's name 5 times a day, I call my mom probably every other day now.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know what my secret is or what happened, but it's you. So thanks for being named Colleen. But how's your day look like?
The day is busy and packed in and working with Dr. Dominic, and not much else going on. A little rainy outside.
And how long you been an assistant?
I've been an assistant, I think you and I added it up the other day, 18 years.
18 years.
I swear, this isn't what I wanted to do for a living, but
Well, we're
when
lucky.
you're good, you're great.
You're good. Your patients are lucky. And
Thanks.
we're very lucky.
Thank
and
you.
Colleen is one of those employees where you find someone, you had a long military career.
Yep.
And military's big into systems, wouldn't you say?
I mean, can you tell I'm military by my haircut?
And she came and she had systems and she added value and she redid the ordering and supplies. And tell them more about what you did. I mean, our water line was a disaster.
Yeah, I came in as a temporary for a week, and when I found out it was Howard Fran's practice, I was like, well, I'll try it on Monday and see how it goes. I don't think I'm that good for this place. But it ended up being, obviously, on Wednesday, we had an exchange in the hallway. He said, you're great. And I said, you're the legend. And that's how it went down. And I came in, and everyone had been here for so long, and it worked out awesome because we just kind of came in as a team, decided what needed to be fixed up or reorganized, and we're completely on the bottled water system, which the practice was ready for 10 years ago, but we never really did that. Completely on the tag system for ordering, and every single assistant has a hunk to do, so nobody's really taxed. Works out great.
And this is, once again, this is something where there's no one here, me or office manager, no one here could have taught Colleen what she knows. This is, once again, HR, human relations, finding diamonds in the rough. And you got to have an eye for talent, and you were only here, a day? And everybody's like, wow, we have to get Colleen.
I was here one day, and nobody wanted to tell me that I was going to work with Dr. Fran. They were all afraid I would run away.
And she wasn't,
my pleasure.
and she wasn't smart enough to run. My gosh, she stayed.
Maybe in 20 years there'll be a job vacancy.
Well, thank you, Colleen. And Amy, come to your door. This is my daughter I never had. What are you, 21?
22.
22, and I'm 42, so I have 4 boys. This really is my daughter I never had. And what's neat about Amy is that with each dentist, we have we have their assistant that can do anything, and then you can have an assistant who's wants to learn everything if she's attitude. And Amy, you're just all attitude. You want to dive in on everything, and why is that?
I've been assisting 3 years. I never had any school. I just jumped in, and everything I learned, I jumped in and wanted to learn, and I learned best from you and the other dentists from here, and it's all great, hands-on.
And you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves. And I can always tell the best young assistants is the ones that aren't going to turn out very good. They don't want to get in there, but the best ones, occasionally they'll bump heads with you when you're like trying to get out a wisdom tooth, or because you're trying to look as much as I'm trying to look. And whenever an assistant bumps heads, she's as aggressive as you are, trying to see and assist and all that kind of stuff.
I thought you were just trying to get hair on your head.
I have 4 boys, 16. I have 4 teenagers. They're 16, 14, 12-teen, and 10-teen. And 2 of them want to marry Amy, so that's just a footnote. So, Dawn, you must come here and take a bow. And this is Dawn.
Hello.
And she, most important, she checks them all in, checks them all out. And so tell them what you do, Dawn.
I've been in dentistry for about 16 years. I started out as an assistant, and I came here. I've worked here for about, 4 years? And then I came up front, and now I'm the checkout girl, and I love it. I really love it.
And why do you love it?
It's great. I love working with the patients. I have great rapport with them from what I've established here in the back, and I still have it up front, and it's great. And they're so happy when they come here to schedule their appointments, and that I can help them. It's awesome.
And
so it's really good.
That's also neat, having someone who's done the back here office
Right.
for 6 years or more, and so it's really interesting because we get in a jam. She can see the patient, she can do an FMX, she can make a temper, she can basically do anything in dentistry.
Right, so it helps. It's nice.
Now switch to your other voice.
And when they ask me questions, I can help them out too. So that's always good.
Come on, voice 2.
No, I
Dawn
can't
has
do
2.
it.
I've never seen it. She has 2 distinct voices, and it's very interesting like that.
It only comes out at night.
It only comes out at night. And where's the central?
She's in sterile.
She's in sterile. And this is Loriana. So Loriana, this is tell them what you do here.
Central sterilization and some assisting.
And before she worked here, I had 4 kids. Now I'm sterile. That's how good she is. She ran central sterilization. And so what's your day like?
It's pretty busy.
Pretty busy?
Constant, yeah.
Yeah. And do you like it?
I love it.
And why do you love it?
Because the people here are so great.
It's all people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's just all people.
Yep.
And it just takes one bad apple to put a funk in the office. And many businesses, whether it's a restaurant, dental office, donut office, they tolerate someone just kind of funky. They're not just right. And it could be mental illness, could be depression, could be schizophrenia, bipolar, could be a myriad of things. But they tolerate it. And we're so lucky because Sandy and Lori pick jewels like you. Look at that. I mean, can you imagine? Are we lucky or what? We should be paying her twice as much just for how cute she is. But thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
So the bottom line is, and I don't mean to be redundant, but it's so simple. I mean, you have a vision. Do you want to be a cosmetic dentist, an implantologist? Do you want to be a capitation dentist, a public health dentist? It doesn't matter. And once you have your vision, it's the people. You find the people. And if you find the greatest people, it's easy to make something, sell something, and do the numbers. So people, people, people. And if you keep both eyes on people, everything else seems to take care of itself. For instance, like say you have the wrong strategy. Well, great people will help you find out you have the wrong strategy. You say your costs are too high. Great people will lower your cost. So it's just all people. So I got to go to work. Thank you.